Good.
Malma, second by Councilor Aries, all in favor? Thank you. Adoption of the minutes, recommendation that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on April 28, 2021 be adopted. Moved by Councilor Aries, second by Councilor Anderson. Any comments or questions on the minutes? Hearing none, call the question, all in favor? Carried unanimously. So we're waiting for a salsa sycamores bridge replacement project update from ISL. They're just coming in right now. Carol was just upstairs with him. What's his name, Daryl?
That's Brandon Barker.
Brandon?
Yeah, he was very good.
Sorry.
All right.
If it's okay with you guys, Brandon will be down here in a minute or two. We've just kind of gone through his presentation and I'm going to tighten it up a little bit. So I told Brandon, we can have a little bit of a discussion up here together. I'm getting right up to speed on the nuts and bolts of the bridge. And it might just help cut through the pages of presentation. When he comes.
So we only have 10 minutes.
Yeah,
He's going to go through the overview of the
so
financial.
people can zoom into this meeting.
Yes, this is being published or live right now.
Thought he didn't have a presentation. Even better, right, Kelly? We thought he didn't even have a presentation. You said even better.
Read, because I haven't received a presentation. Does he actually have a
A
power?
little flash drive.
Okay, it just becomes a little more complicated. Screens,
The lift station.
Release trust the other one.
we'll get it sorted.
Right, so your money's right here.
Always do.
Yep, we do.
Everybody out?
Can't hit.
All I think that is. Moving to the left. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, I do. I don't know where he is. It's coming.
I thought he was running upstairs in the conference room.
He was running through his presentation. And I've been trying to get him to tighten it up. So
All right,
Okay.
this is where you do updates on other projects.
Yeah.
This is a good time to just wing it.
uh,
Hey, council.
Mushroom coming along.
How's the washroom?
Here, do you want to go here to capital project update?
No, we're just gonna wing it.
could do that, or I could take a shot at the bridge.
How about the washrooms? How are they doing?
Washrooms are coming.
Wait
Good.
for BC Hydro design?
Yeah, we're waiting for BC Hydro, the 23rd of June. We're going to press them to make that a little quicker.
This year?
Are we still,
BC Hydro, right?
Good.
are we still on track for July
No. This year.
this year? 2021.
I'd like to say yes. I will say yes.
Good. You're saying yes, but your head's doing this.
Nope, I think lies reasonable. We can build. We're going to be waiting for hydro, the last component.
Right.
And we want to bring a conduit in, so we have the Wi-Fi down there as well.
Perfect.
And that, in theory, should be the last thing we bring to the building. So building could be done, should be done,
Good, good news.
better be done.
Oh, yeah.
You're just gonna. I buried a conduit in the garage. BC Hydro didn't like it. Oh, wait, that's a different demeanor and approach to BC Hydro, Mr. Mamas.
And
The comments of Mr. Evan Parliament do not necessarily represent.
touche. Okay.
Nice.
Thanks, Daryl.
Snap.
Wow. I got nothing.
to say.
Got nothing. Sorry.
I promise to move super high level, super quick.
Okay.
Is it this presentation here?
All right.
Yeah.
Looks like it.
So the South Moose Bridge replacement project update, Brandon Parker, and we had a nice little gathering today at the bridge. So Brandon, thank you for the update, and you have the floor. So council's interested in the update.
Okay. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Council, for having me here today. A brief update to you guys from my last update in February. This is going to be basically to cover off the progress to date, and moving forward with the work that's happening out on the bridge by our contractor, BDI Construction. Most of these slides are going to be duplicates or very similar to what you saw in February in my first update. So I'm just going to be touching on the points that are new in this presentation. So I can confirm that all the installation of and in-stream activities, they did not get completed in the timeline. They will have to return for the fall and winter of this year. All the steel driven piles were driven in successfully, so 100% was completed within the permitted fish window. All reinforced concrete abutments, pier caps, and pier diaphragms, those are all complete as well. And when I say pier caps, just the east side of the bridge are done, but all pier diaphragms and all abutments are completed. Lock block gravity wall on the northeast side of the bridge, that is approximately 80 to 90% complete. There is a section that remains to be finished once the contractor is done using the access down to the river. So you'll see closer to the north end of our limits, the wall just terminates vertically. That will get extended once they don't need any access down to the bottom of the bridge. And roadworks is currently underway right now. Some of the key issues in terms of construction, obviously completing the in-stream works within the approved fish window has been one of the challenges or one of the key issues here, as well as staging for the contractor. So in building this bridge, it is really a step-by-step process for him to construct the bridge in a manner that is safe and efficient. He can't put 50 guys out there and employ them all to do the job at one time because they need to have rebar installed, for example, before they can move to the next stage of concrete pour. Once the concrete's done, it has to set before they can go to the next stage, which is putting girders on, et cetera, et cetera. So that sort of is the limitation for them. There is a limited available working area on the deck for them to do this work. To date, certification and recommendations for all progress payments have been provided to the contractor, and they have been all in compliance with our terms of our agreement. Some key milestones to note here. Steel-driven foundation piles, they were completed on the day after the fish window. They were outside the water, which was the last one was an abutment. So they completed all the piles on the 24th of February. Knowing that we had riprap armoring to still complete, the contractor did get, we did acquire an extension to our in-stream work permit. So that has been extended into next year, May 13th of 2022. Reconnection of water and sewer lines have been completed. The permanent relocation to the bridge was not necessary. Demolition of the east side of the bridge, you can all observe that has occurred. That was completed on May 3rd. Concrete reinforcement, as I touched on earlier, that was all completed May 6th. Some of the key issues with the schedule, and again, I'm not going to touch on the things I've already talked about in previous updates, but certainly coordination and reschedule of on-site reviews has been an issue. Non-compliant concrete when we attend the site, so we had to reject concrete, reschedule to come to another day. There was something happening at a concrete mix plant that was completely out of the contractor's power. And again, limited available working areas for multiple crews to complete the bridge and construction or erection. Contractor work tasks, again, was a step-by-step process. And again, task 1 can only be completed one, or task 2 can only be completed once task 1 is done, etc. Our substantial performance date or milestone date for this contract is May 31st. Likely that's not achievable. That's only a couple of weeks away. In terms of progress to date for our construction budget, you've all seen this slide already. The update is the construction progress to May 12th. And you can see since the last update in February, which was about 3 months ago, the contractor has done about 20% more work than he did in February. So he's at about 56% complete of this project, which has a dollar value of about $1.8 million of construction remaining on the project site. Some key issues with the budget for construction. So we've had to go through a couple more change orders. We were looking for savings and opportunities here. Control joint spaces on the deck were modified. They were reduced through change order number 4. This allows for more efficiency for the contractor to install these joints at strategic locations that are necessary for the bridge. Change order number 5 was also implemented, and that was for a conflict with the water main and an existing, proposed retaining wall. And again, I made a comment, additional or supplement on-site reviews. There's also been some insufficient rebar that have been observed or witnessed through our inspections, which have been corrected. We did have some challenges with some of the water main testing and leakage, but those also have been corrected. Again, some concrete supply issues from a third party were a challenge. Another issue that we had was we had some safety concerns on the bridge following our meeting in February. And there were safety measures that we took that we found necessary, that the contractor was not providing the necessary assurances at that time. So we had a third party come in and do an assessment for us. We've received 2 schedule updates from the contractor, the most recent one being April 20th. And now just talking a bit about the engineering or professional services budget. So we started in our last February update, we were at 1.1 million was our fees at that time. So we're now up to 1.28 million in terms of engineering fees. This covers all of the sub consultants as well as ISL, as well as third-party engineering, which the district has paid for, but we're recouping that from the contractor out of his progress draws. I didn't get a chance to update this slide in terms of dollar values, but those percentages that are on that pie chart are realistic. And just to kind of give you a high level, overall budget of the 1.28 million, structural comprises of about 50% of that cost. Civil is about 10%, project management about 11%, hydrotechnical 5%, archaeology 7%, environmental 5%, and geotechnical about 14%. And then electrical engineering and legal survey make up about 11%. The total expenditures to date with construction and engineering. So we have construction up to May 1st, 2.449 million. Professional services to April 16th is 1.28. So the total spent to date as of May 1st would be 3.734 million. In terms of milestones for the construction schedule, I've given sort of the estimated milestones on the left-hand side. Those are what you would have saw in the February update. On the right side is sort of the actual or estimates that we now are more privy of, now that we have updated construction schedule from our contractor. So some key points there. The precast girders we're looking at next week for the east side of the bridge to be installed. The rebar and concrete decking on the east side is slated for a week thereafter on May 25th. And demolition of the existing bridge on the west side will happen at the beginning of April. Or sorry, that's
June.
end of June. Yeah, that's correct. So sorry, that was, I got ahead of myself. Demolition of the existing bridge, April 1st is what I meant to say. The west pile caps for the pier caps, those are estimated to be June 29th. The precast girders for the west side of the bridge, which would be the remainder of the bridge, July 1st. And then decking and concrete and roadworks in the weeks to subsequent weeks after that, so mid-July. I'm estimating that substantial performance is likely sometime late July. And the riprap armoring for the in-stream work activities will be in the fall, winter of this year. And so we're looking at construction completion for early spring of 2022. Some key issues with the schedule moving forward, obviously, is the timing of demolition and coordination of the existing bridge structure. I've already mentioned it, but likely there's late performance or completion on this job. And existing wood pile extractions will also occur within that extended fish window in the fall of 2021-22. Moving forward with our construction budget, you can see, the values that we have here are very reflective of reality. These are targeted numbers that have been estimated based on the revised construction schedule we have now, as well as knowing there are some additional works that the contractor has been imposed on through regulators. And the one that I'm emphasizing on that is the allowance for pile extractions. So that is a DFO requirement. So the contractor did not know of any of this at the time of negotiation, so he would be entitled to that. I'd like to hone in on the bottom statement, potential savings pending. I'd like to confirm and verify that the permanent relocation of water and sanitary is not necessary, and so the district will see a savings of $181,000 for not having to complete that work. Some construction issues. Some key issues, with construction. Sorry, got a different slide here. That is my presentation.
So if you go back a couple of slides, just to your timelines.
Yep.
Yeah, so right now we're here, right? The precast girders are going to be installed. We've got the pile caps. They're the big laterals that were poured in concrete. So the girders are going to go on, and we're planning to do that next week. We're getting a dozen of those put into place, and we're gonna have big delays on the bridge, and we'll announce it. It'll be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, likely from 10 till 4 in the morning. There'll be 1 hour delays. So we'll get that work done at night, get those girders in place. And then it's going to look a lot different. It's going to look like we have a bridge. So things will be a lot different next week.
They will look different, but they won't be usable quite yet. There will still be concrete decking to go on top of that. So that will be another week to 2 weeks thereafter before that is used for there.
It's a week to form it, a week to pour it, and then you've got to wait a week for it to cure. So, yeah, but it's going to look like we have a bridge next week. So that's good news.
If anybody had any questions.
Yeah, Councillor Malmus. Councillor McCabe.
Thanks for the tour, and I didn't ask this out there, but I was just curious. A lot of bridges girders on and then they have a precast concrete that they set on top. Why did we not go that route? Why did we choose to pour concrete? Because now you got foreman and all that other stuff to put in there, which is you could have set those girders, set the decking on, and you'd have been done in a day.
Yeah, I'll attempt to answer that. I'm not a structural engineer, but certainly there is an asphalt membrane that is sandwiched between the asphalt layer and the decking itself.
Okay.
And that's basically a barrier. That's to keep the water off, so it does not actually penetrate and sit inside the bridge.
Okay.
Don't want water to have the ability to get access to any of the rebar, any of the steel that's in the bridge. It'll be advanced degradation.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor McKay?
Yeah, it's probably a couple small things that are probably outside the scope, but and minor in cost, but in the dog park, I was asking if we could extend that fence along the west side, back chain link, because it's kind of, the dog park's exposed on that side. I'm just hoping we could sneak that in the project. I think I talked to Joe about that. And if we could accidentally leave access to the river for non-motorized launching of kayaks somewhere in the project unofficially.
We did try to make that an official part of this plan. And we needed to secure a little bit of land to do that. So the resident that has given up a piece of land for us to use had no interest in selling us that piece so we could develop a canoe launch. That
Okay,
was the thinking, and
so it's not happening.
not officially, no.
Hey, well, you tried.
We did try.
It could be an unofficial little.
Councilor Anderson?
So Daryl, it's safe to say that July, mid-July, single lane or double lane?
Wider than a single, not quite a double.
So, hey,
Yeah, sorry.
Quarter pounder without cheese.
government. Okay, so we're still going to be dealing with traffic lights throughout the summer.
Yeah, my understanding is it'll be
Yeah.
quite a bit wider.
Once they get the first lane installed and all the traffic has been swallowed on that, it is going to be much wider than what is existing there today. In terms of July, say mid-July, when both decks are all complete, the contractor hasn't really forecasted what that looks like about traffic control, but because it's a construction site, he's still going to be responsible for the safety of the public as well as his own crew. So if he doesn't implement the street light, then he will have flaggers out there until construction is complete and it is safe across the bridge without any directed control.
But good width on it, so it shouldn't impede any of the.
Any big stuff, but it's still going to be single lane.
Any other comments or questions?
Get her done.
All right,
Hurry.
thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks for the progression, and I know that it's going to be a bit of a challenge during the summer. I go across that bridge about 10 times a day, and I've watched every inch that you've been involved with when it comes to building that. So I know we're going to be a little bit longer timeline, but it's going to be awesome once it gets done. So you guys are doing a good job, and Daryl, you're doing a good job as well as looking after that as well, you and your team. Well, thanks, Brandon. I look forward to your next update.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Joe.
All right, with that being said, we're going to move in camera recommendation that pursuant to section 91A, E, G, and K of the Community Charter, Council exercise its authority and move in camera. I need a mover. To Evans, second by Councilor Malmus, all in favor? We're in camera, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, good. So resolve into the committee of the whole recommendation that council resolve itself into the committee of the whole town 504. Moved by Councilor Evans, second by Councilor Aries, all in favor. Okay, so right off the bat, we have Sergeant McNeil here to give us our fourth report from 2020. Go ahead, Sarge.
So there's a report there from Mayor Council. We're going to roll over and do pretty much similar goals for this year, which started in April. Contribute to the road safety, build and maintain the relations with the public, and the visibility with the patrols, marine and sleds. Bring over, goal was 12 traffic stats per member per month. You can see where we were. 38, 33, and 37 stats born into compared to the previous year, 9, 53, and 51. So the math on that, 5 members working resulted in an average of 7 stats per month. Traffic goal of 12, obviously not met. Total number 113 in 2020 and 108 in 2021, fairly consistent. The IRPs for impaired drivers, so we did not have any impaired driving charges for the quarter, and 0 impaired driving charges for the quarter in the third, compared to the 3 in the fourth quarter of 2020. So those are down as well. Collisions, we did have 1 fatal. It wasn't in this quarter, it was in April. Most people are familiar with the circumstances of the fatal we had out east of town, the double fatal. There was the car, the westbound car, crossed the double solid line and struck the eastbound truck, unfortunately killing both drivers. It wasn't road related. There wasn't issues with road conditions. It was just originally we thought it was the driver of the truck that was at fault based on statements by witnesses and the mechanics of where the vehicles landed. But other witnesses came forward, and those 2 witnesses that gave us the original statements, they were incorrect. And who had crossed the center line, it was actually the driver of the vehicle, the car, that had crossed the center line and caused the collision. So ICBC's got that information. That was odd. Like, we haven't had highway patrol guys were there investigating it, and for 2 people to give statements saying, well, I saw this happen, and then we get conflicting statements from more people, it's pretty rare. So, but that happened in that instance. So for the quarter itself, there were no fatal collisions for January, February, and March. We had 4 injury collisions in the quarter. February 3rd, we had a semi-truck cross a double solid 97A and roll. That was in the paper. We did a piece on that. That driver was ticketed for crossing the double solid line, and suspect speed was definitely a factor in that. February 12th, 2K west of sycamores pickup truck went off road right down an embankment, and that was really poor weather. That could have been worse too. That occurred just at the top as you're leaving the town and heading west, and it's quite steep there. And she went down quite a ways and struck a tree. Fortunately for her. February 22, Craig Alley, a vehicle towing a travel trailer, lost control, hit another vehicle. Yeah, that was just road conditions were poor, and that vehicle wasn't really properly equipped to be towing a travel trailer in February. March 14th, single vehicle rollover in Malacqua, pickup truck road conditions not a factor. And there was only 1 injury collision in the quarter of 2020 compared to 2 in 2019. So we're still in the ballpark there with 4. Break and enters, we had 3 reported, nothing very serious. Former waterways, now Sycamores houseboats. They had 2 incidents where someone was going in there after hours, taking like a small television out of one of the houseboats and then a generator. I talked to the manager, Scott, about that. They would set up some better security. But, yeah, it's just 2 incidents in March. We had a condo building in Mara, entered the complex with a key. So somebody had a key to the building, and they helped themselves to some items in the storage locker. And there were 5 break and enters in 2020 in the fourth quarter. So we only had 3 this time. So no commercial ones, which is good. Theft of vehicles. February 24, we had a pickup and 2 sleds stolen from one of those condos in Mara. That was a favorite target of traveling thieves, an older pickup truck with 2 very nice snowmobiles on the back. That's generally what they target. It's easy to steal the older Dodges and Fords for experienced thieves. They know how to do it. And closer to the truck, they want the sleds, sell sleds for profit. And those sleds are not recovered, but the truck, of course, turned up in Penticton. So just reinforces the fact that they're traveling criminals It'll come up here at that time of year, sycamores, Revelstoke, and that's what they're looking for, an easy score where they can find an old truck where they can steal and get the high value sleds. February 27th, we had a Jeep SUV parked at a residence in Malacca, stolen overnight, and keys were left in that. That was not recovered. March 3rd, we had a resident left his brand new 2020 F350 idling out in front of the 7-Eleven, not a wise choice. Thief promptly relieved him of the truck and drove it to Revelstoke, and passed the information on Revelstoke. Revelstoke was on the ball with that, and they arrested him in a motel there. So he was charged with possession of stolen property, 28-year-old guy from Kelowna, and a known criminal. March 22nd, attempted theft of a truck, which was for sale. It wasn't stolen due to a dead battery. And there were 2 thefts of vehicles for the previous quarter, for that quarter of the previous year. So everything was pretty much in line there. Looking at the actual stats for the entire quarter, 2021 compared to 2020, you see they're identical. Like we had 336 calls for service this year as compared to 338 for last year. So no change. Nothing really jumps off the page there as overly dramatic. Building relationships with the youth. We're still doing the visits to the school. We've been in there to the elementary and the high school a few times this month and last month as well. Check in with both principals. Attachment is fully staffed, and criminal code charge for this quarter. There was a mischief charge, piece of paper about that. A youth slashed multiple tires at a residence down in Elliott Crescent, and was arrested for that. So the final statistics for the whole year, I included those as well. A few more calls for service this year than last, not much though. 2040 compared to 1910. And the big difference is we had a lot of more abandoned 911 calls. See a large difference in that. I don't know if it's people traveling in the summertime. We were getting all kinds of dropped cell phone calls from the houseboats and people out on the lake. They're pocket dialing 911 for some reason and talking to them and, oh, I'm on Marble Point, I'm fine. So we're getting lots of those. False alarms were cut in half, same breath. We had one business that was giving us lots of false alarms, and that was taken care of. So everything else is kind of in line there for the year. So summer's coming. Everybody's reading in the paper now about the compliance with the non-essential travel. If you're keeping up with it, you're seeing that the RCMP is putting out media points saying that yes, there were roadblocks put up this past weekend as you're leaving the Lower Mainland coming up to Coquihalla, but there were no tickets issued. So the direction we're getting from the province is yes, these restrictions are in place, and yes, there is a fine put in place. The fine is $575, failing to comply with travel restrictions. However, the province does not want us, the police, pulling people over, doing random checks, setting up roadblocks whenever we want. They don't want us doing that. They've told us not to do that. So we get these calls sometimes at the office that so-and-so just showed up in my trailer park or my RV site and got Saskatchewan plates or Alberta plates. You don't go over there and write these people $575 tickets, no matter how upset these people are. It's not what the province wants. They want it to be an education thing. They want it to be people being told it's an advisory and this is what you should be doing. But they don't want the police going around and writing all these tickets. So yeah, those roadblocks were set up, but they did not issue a single ticket at any of those roadblocks. And I actually spoke with not one of the media people, but one of the people who was on the highway patrol. And yeah, they had 2 people, 2 vehicles actually go through that and confess. Out of all the people they talked to, like two cars said, yeah, we're traveling for non-essential purposes. Everybody else has an excuse. And those 2 people voluntarily turned over. Turn around. Yeah. So you have people on one hand that are all upset that tickets aren't being issued, and you have people on the other hand that say, you know, let's get on with things. Let's not be divisive. So we're kind of in the middle and we're getting direction as to what to do, so I'm okay with it. I was just talking with bylaws about it, and John was asking me, well, what do you see for the beaches and whatnot for the summer? And, you know, I was using the analogy of Jaws, like everyone's seen Jaws. Like what happens when the sheriff says we're gonna shut the beaches down? You can't tell everybody to get off the beach when it's 33 degrees and it's sunny and it's July and we're on vacation because we're too close together at an outside place. You can't do that. Like we had COVID last year and we were doing our foot patrols, but we're not telling people, hey, you're too close or whatever. When it's 33, 34 degrees and it's sunny, people are gonna put their blankets out and go to the beach. And even if we did try to do that, if we try to clear the beach, too many people, 20 minutes later, the beach is gonna be full again. Like, let's be realistic. And even if you decide you're gonna do that at Sycamores Beach, well, what's going on at Swansea Point? What's going on at Canoe Beach? Like it's trying to empty the ocean with a bucket. You can't do it. So we have to be realistic with that approach. And that's what we're gonna do this summer. Like, you can't have the organized events until province Bonnie Henry says you can have the organized events, the concerts, whatnot, but people are still gonna come. I think we're gonna have a very busy summer. I think there's gonna be lots of houseboats rented. There's gonna be every hotel room is gonna be full, what I think anyway, from what I'm seeing. You go on Eastern Parks Reservation site and you can't get anything. Like you look at Revelstoke right now, Blanket Creek, Martha Creek. If you try to book a week in June, you can't. Like it's booked solid. So I think the shoe shop's going to be a very popular destination. We'll be busy. The boats, our boat's getting older, so I was fortunate enough to get district to purchase new pontoons. So they're looking pretty sad, getting on 15 years. So we're going to have some new pontoons that's getting delivered 2 weeks from now. We'll have a boat, and it'll be back in the marina slip there at Carroll's Marina. And should be good and looking a lot spruced up, a lot better. Chase has got some new outboards on their boat, so they'll be good to go. And Salmon Arm just had a new bimini top put on their boat, so all three boats will be in the lake, ready to go for the summer. And yeah, like I said, I think it will be busy, be lots of activity there. Questions about how we're going to get through our second COVID summer?
One question, are you with the concerns around gang violence right now? And I know it's mainly targeted at the Lower Mainland and so forth. Do you see any indication that that sort of violence might take place somewhere along the highway, you know, and targeted hits, you know, you talk houseboats and so forth. Do you see any danger there?
Well, we've got no intel on that. If there was any active intelligence on that, I would be notified through our channels, like through Major Crime and through our intelligence guys. Nothing on that. I mean, Colleen, you know, from your previous employment, anybody can show up on a houseboat and often do. So
That's very true, very true.
yeah, but yeah, we've got nothing to indicate that anything like that is happening. Short end.
Any other comments? Go ahead, Councillor McKay. Then
I was just curious. Thank you for your report, by the way. 7 frauds. Could you elaborate on that? I know you can't get into detail, but the frauds are just something that we need a heads up on, or
A lot of online stuff. Not every one of them was following through, like where the victim actually lost money. But we've had cases where one I remember a fellow purchased farm equipment online from the state, Iowa it was, and he transferred money, and of course it wasn't even a real dealership or anything. And then he had to call his bank to try to get his funds frozen and reversed. Other ones are targeting elderly people, and we try to refer them to fraud busters. And you know, it's usually the same MO, like the ones where they call them up out of the blue and try to, hey, we got this check for you and we're going to send you the money. It's, oh, we overpaid you, send us the reverse back. So we haven't had any ones where anybody's lost a large amount of money, except for that the farm equipment one. And he was still working with his bank to try to have that recouped.
thanks.
Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, thank you, Murray, for your report, and thank you guys for everything you guys do. Just on the sleds, that was that from the legacy there, the sled theft?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there's a couple, actually, there's some sleds that were parked there all winter. I'm surprised they didn't vamoose too, but
Those were two young guys from Ontario that flew in, bought a cheap truck. Had their, I don't know if they had their sleds here or how the sleds got here, but they just bought the truck just to tow the sleds around while they were here for a month or so.
yeah,
And the sleds got stolen.
yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
Councillor Anderson.
Thanks, Murray. Yeah, I agree with you. I think you guys have a super tough job because everyone's COVID exhausted, right? And you're probably getting, and you probably will still keep getting all the calls that an Albertan pulled in next door. And perhaps we can assist with that again, starting our campaign right now, saying, you know what, we do have people that work here that are from Alberta. Our doc is from Alberta and comes up every 2 weeks. So we should start, sending out the messages again of be kind and we're people, not plates. And people have homes here, and I personally feel that they've got every right to be in their cottage that they're paying taxes on and, spending carrying costs. So, and they're isolated.
You have the people in the Lower Mainland that actually own Stu properties, and they're abiding by everything the province is telling them. They're not supposed to come out because they have a real hard time, abiding by and following, understandably, honestly. And a lot of property taxes have waterfront property on one of these lakes.
Absolutely.
It's from a different health region,
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah, and from what I understand, you can come from Alberta into interior health, and if you're staying in the interior health region,
Yes.
you're okay to do that,
As long as you don't go to the Lower Mainland.
as long as you don't go to the Lower Mainland. Yeah, so,
Which is a hard sell for someone who lives in British Columbia in that Lower Mainland health district. They want to come up here to,
yeah, they're weighing the numbers, so, right, the cases that, so.
Alberta has the highest number of cases in the country. You're not gonna win that argument.
Oh, I know, I hear you. I hear you.
Well, thank you, Sarge, for the update. And now that you have a full detachment full of police officers and whatnot, you're doing a great job, and we are looking forward to a busy summer. I know it's going to be busy for you as well, but the community depends on it for sure. So let's see where it goes. But COVID has definitely been a concern. But I kind of appreciate the RCMP's lookout when it comes to the recommendations coming down from Dr. Bonnie Henry and whatnot, and how difficult it must be. There's a lot of people that don't want to comply no matter what you say to them. So that's the way it is. Jeff, go ahead.
Through the chair, thanks, Murray, for your report. It's always good. Now that you have a full staff of 5, what are your kind of patrol hours around town?
We'll do the foot patrol thing just for the public visibility. We've got guys working in the evenings and they'll be out and about too. And I want to get the boat out. We've got the new pontoon and I anticipate a lot of traffic on the lake, so I want to get that out as well. But just generally, want people to be seen, we'll be down at the beach park, walking around, that type of thing.
Yeah, I guess I was leading towards the starting in after the May long weekend, so to speak. We seem to be getting a little more late evening.
Yeah.
So it used to be, you used to kind of stagger your night, so it wasn't that everybody in town knew you all went home at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock or whatever time it was. So what are you doing in that aspect?
Oh, we'll still go 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
Yeah, won't be like 4 or 5, it'll be 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And that's, you want to have the officers out and about when there's more people around, and you have so many officers, so you want to maximize your call volume where the guys are.
Right. Okay, thanks.
All right. Thanks, Sarge. Keep
Have you
up the
heard-
good work.
Have you heard the same? Like, do you think it's going to be no vacancy, like everything, like really busy? Like,
Pardon me?
have you heard the same thing? Like, you expected to have a no vacancy season, like everyone?
I believe so. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Houseboats are booking in
Yeah.
95% capacity. Yeah. But with the same amount, like you can only take so many people on a houseboat. If you're booking a houseboat for 30 people. Sure.
So your good friend, go ahead.
Speaking of gang violence, so Montreal, Toronto meets next week.
I don't think it's too violent.
Are we making a wager, a friendly wager?
But not on camera.
Thank you. No further questions.
Yeah, one of your associates, your good friend Chris, he is retired now. As of June 21st, but he is now on contract and he's now training police officers with dogs, so he's still in the canine business, so. And happy with where he's at. Happy that he's still alive, but that, yeah, that phone call that you gave me when I was in Ottawa, it was pretty disturbed, but he's doing well.
I'll keep that guy down. I've seen him in action pulling out of it. Probably take more than a car crash to keep him down, so. Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Marie.
Thank you.
All right, capital project update. Daryl, what's going on in your world?
Okay, so we've highlighted some of the capital projects that are underway. Starting with the Hillier Road Water Looping Project that was undertaken last year. There's a little bit of remedial work that's going on there at the residence property, just to do a little bit of landscaping and finish up some odds and ends. The Beach Park concession washroom, as mentioned in committee of the whole, we're aiming for July, and we've looked at some renderings, and it's going to be a nice project. It's coming along really well. The wastewater treatment plant, we're still upgrading. We've got one more final piece, and there'll be a resolution that comes forward later tonight regarding the installation of the filters. So we can speak to that shortly. The healing center, the trees are cleared. Hazard assessment for the building has been completed. And we're currently waiting for an AIA to get done. So it was an overview was done initially. And so we're waiting now to get the study done, and then we'll look at demolishing those buildings, getting that out to tender. Solska Bridge replacement, we did an update earlier in committee of the whole. That bridge is a little behind, but we're happy with what we're seeing. It's going to be robust and well built, so that's good news. The Main Street upgrades, we're waiting on hearing some more detail from Healing Center and the plans surrounding that. The biomass heat, there's no updates at this time on that one. We're paving currently on Solska Road. The entrance to town is getting done, about half done, and they should be resuming early in the week. And Owlhead Mountain Bike Park, we've completed our section 57, so that's been submitted as of Friday. So maybe a 45-day wait on that, and then we'll see where we go. We've made contact with Splatson, and we had a really good meeting with them. It was a Zoom meeting, but it turns out Jeremy connected really well with the other fellow. They actually went to the same school, and so yeah, we had some really good dialogue, and I think it's looking positive. That's all.
Much questions on capital updates for Daryl. Go ahead, Gord.
Just one, Daryl, and maybe it's for Kelly. That Salsa road paving, is that 450 or is that 300 for that job?
The 450 was the budget for the entirety of the road paving for the year. That's not reflective of that job.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it just seemed a little high.
Yeah, the budget for the sycamores road, I believe, is 350. And then there's another 100.
A little less than that even.
Yeah, maybe it's 300 and 150 for the frontage of Mayor Road.
Okay, yeah.
The other paved job.
Councillor McKay, then Councillor Momus.
Thank you. I'm getting a few questions on the two buildings on Main Street there, Daryl, about is there, hazardous material? Are they going to be burnt or are they going to be demolished? Is there anything that we can pass on to the public and how that's being dealt with?
Yeah, so we did get an environmental company in to assess those buildings, and they've gone through them both with fine tooth comb. They've submitted a report. They've identified the hazards that are present on both properties. And so they've also outlined how to dispose of that stuff. So when it comes time to actually knock the buildings down, we will make sure that whoever gets awarded that job does it in that fashion.
Okay, so there's, I guess the main question from the public is, are they going to be burnt or demolished? The public doesn't seem to want them to be burnt.
Oh,
Yeah, that's not on the table. We're not gonna just light them on fire.
No. Fire department has said no. I've informed Rona Martin on behalf of Eagle Valley. Seniors were concerned. There'll be no burning.
Okay, so we can tell the
Yep.
we can tell the public that there's been a hazard assessment done and our demolition contractor will follow the directions of the hazard assessment.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Council Momus.
Through the chair, Daryl, in the paving that you're doing on Sycamores Southpaw Road, when we, what is it, 4 years ago, we started talking about the bridge project. And at that time, there was discussion about ensuring that that road to the hill up the mountain was going to be 100% capacity. Was that part of the consideration when they're doing the resurfacing, or are they just resurfacing? Because in the wintertime now or springtime, it's 70%, right? And
Yeah.
we wanted the bridge built to 100% full time, and the road was supposed to meet that same occasion.
So the method being employed to repave that road was, the option that we selected is the one that enhanced the base the most. We've actually pulverized that road and we've added 65 mils on top of that, and we're paving that. So whether that translates to keeping it open 100% when it comes road restriction time, I'm not sure at this point, but it'll be beefier than it's ever been.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Daryl. Any other comments or questions? Thanks, Daryl. Keep up the good work. All right. April 21st bylaw enforcement summary. John.
Council. Month of April, we posted our campaign on unsightly properties, which was extremely successful, with several properties being identified and corrected within the month, as well as tracking some of our other problem properties in the district and getting several of them. In regards to the unsightly properties bylaw and how it works. We had 21 complaints overall for the month. The majority of them I was able to close fairly quickly. And on a sort of a lighter note, I was really impressed with my interactions with the youth of Sycamores during the month as they're starting to get out and more active in the evenings. I've been reminding them of the parks bylaws and the COVID restrictions and no drinking, etc. And they've all been really respectful, really friendly, really appreciative of my presence out there, and just really good kids all around.
Comments or questions? Councilor Momus.
John, I just got to ask this through the chair. What time do you start?
In the morning?
Yes.
It's sort of a floating schedule at the moment. I'm normally on shift for 10 a.m. start at 10 a.m. throughout the week. And I'm on until 6:30. On Fridays and Saturdays, I split my shift up a little bit. Sometimes I come in a little later, but I'm always on from about 8 o'clock until midnight on Fridays and Saturdays, just to try and catch the stragglers and do some parking enforcement.
Okay, so it used to be that the semis got a ticket for being parked on the side of the highway by the previous bylaw enforcement. And we have a no trucks turn off between Tim Hortons and 7-Eleven. And this morning at like 6:35, 6:40, it was 5 van cam semis in the Tim Hortons parking lot. And had I had your number, I might have called you, but it seems that we used to issue tickets early in the morning. And we've stopped doing that. So now that highway has become a parking lot again, turning into Tim Hortons is, I mean, you can't, if you are actually parked in Tim Hortons to get a cup of coffee and these clowns pull in there, you can't even get out of the parking spot until they leave. So it used to be that it's like, there's nobody ticketing us anymore, so it's good to go. We're all gonna park on the Trans-Canada Highway and we're all gonna drive into Tim Hortons on a sign, drive right by the sign that says no trucks. So if we don't start doing something about it, we'll be right back where we were 2 years ago with the Trans-Canada Highway in a parking lot. So we have the authority from the RCMP to write the tickets. I think we up the fines. So it needs to be looked at, or it's going to turn back into what it was 2 years ago.
Through the chair, I will definitely adjust my schedule and do a few more early morning tours through, especially the Tim Hortons and the Husky.
Yeah.
The Huskies where I've been focusing mostly on at night, which is when the truckers stop there.
Yeah.
So I will definitely switch and get back to some early mornings at the Tim Hortons.
Counselor Anderson?
This is probably a question for Kelly or Evan. Do we not historically have 2 bylaw officers on in the summer? Like, so that, like, that's a lot of hours, a lot of days for John. When does John take a break, right? So I thought we had a bit of an overlap with a second bylaw officer.
So I can comment on that. So it's a bit of a history. So when we had Dale here, he was 25% bylaw, 75% building. And so we would hire a part-time person to come in the summer to help with Dale. When Paul was here, we didn't, because Paul was more dedicated to bylaw than building. And we couldn't find anybody for additional help. He had the capacity to do the bylaw. So now we have not a full-time, but almost full-time, 30 hours, is it approximately?
For starting in May, according to my contract, I switched up to full-time. So I'm 37.5 hours a week from now until the end of the month.
Yeah.
So are we gonna look at a bylaw, another one for the summer, or?
Well, we haven't budgeted for it.
Oh. We're just so thrilled with John's work. Very happy with John.
Ken, go ahead.
No, we didn't budget for it.
Through the chair, I'd just say we could look at some scheduling, just options, that having some early and still having some late. I mean, those don't have to be on the same day. And I find that, when John has a presence there, typically that helps solve the issue for a little bit. And then, just filtering through, then the word gets around, John's out there issuing tickets.
Councilor Busher?
Yeah, just a quick one. Thanks, John. And Daryl might be able to help me. On the residents of 2 Mile about some cleanup at the 2 Mile resort there, and talking to Brett, the fire marshal, and some beach signage and that for the dogs. And there was an old sign there that it was really faded and they wanted a new one for dogs. So we put that on there. And then since then, I think his name's Henry, he asked me if that contravenes our bylaw. He said dogs are not allowed on the beach. But I think our bylaw, and I've read our bylaw, it says you allow dogs on the beach with a leash. Is that correct?
That's incorrect, sir. Dogs are not allowed on the beach.
Okay, so he was probably right then. So maybe that one sign, I think that one sign we put up.
That sign says dogs on leash only, I believe.
Yeah,
So if that is on the beach, maybe we have to move that back to the parking lot, that one. I thought it was on the Telespar back at the parking lot. Let me double check.
yeah, we'll just double check it.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that up. That's good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I looked at that sign yesterday or a couple of days ago in Silver Sands where you parked there for our beach, and that sign. And on the Telespar, there's a symbol with the dog, and it's like no dogs, like in the park, period.
Chair, on our parks bylaw, they're allowed to walk their dogs through the park on a leash, and they have to remain on the pathway.
Might want to check that sign.
Yeah, maybe we'll review that.
So go ahead. Evans.
Thanks to the chair. I just want to say it's good to see you driving around in the truck, John. It's a good presence.
Any more word from the Ministry of Transportation in regards to the engine brakes along the Trans-Canada Highway and signage there in order to prevent that as they come into the community?
Through the chair, there is actually a sign on the highway, saying residential area, no engine brakes. If we choose to put something up ourselves, it would be something we would have to design and install. They won't up there, sign out.
Yeah, and good job at one of our unsightly premises. You see that they've been out there with bags and cleaning up, and you got the message across. So that particular area of the community is looking a lot better. And I hope it continues. Councillor Momas.
I'm not sure if what you were referring to, were you referring to a truck stop?
That's what I was referring to. Yeah, the truck stop.
Yeah, so John, how did you convince them?
I went out and had a meeting with the operator of the truck stop, and I actually issued him fines.
Daily.
Problem with, once he would receive the fines, the next day he and his staff were out there, and I believe they filled almost half a dumpster.
It looks like they did the highway ditch as well. Somewhere.
Yeah, I did.
The operator expressed that he will no longer be sending his staff down into the highway ditch as it is not his property. So he feels no responsibility for cleaning it up. That'll be work ongoing.
And the property Shane normally has with the rock garden on it, that's disgusting ditch as well. Property, so
That's not his property, so he feels no responsibility.
as we start looking back at the road closure.
See how that goes. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thanks for your report.
So April 2021 building permits. That's on the building permits. It's in the April 2020 of last year and April 2021, quite a substantial increase. Just under $900,000. Any comments on this? All right, so comments on the strategic priorities at this stage from council. Councillor Malmus, go ahead.
We have we're working hard on getting a bunch of stuff cleaned up, and we're working on the rail and had a meeting with Chief Christian as well. Had a couple other meetings, getting some things in place. But we kind of dropped the ball on the walkway that the district has complete control over, which is called the channel walkway. We spent some $3,000 on getting a report. Applied for a bit of funding and we're on it. And the we're busy with other items. But we've been working at this waterfront walkway for as long as we've been elected, or as long as I've been elected anyway, so it's 6 years now. And I feel we're just not any closer to it than the day we started this, except we spent a bunch of money. So I'd like to find out if Gordon and I, that's our portfolio, if we can sit down with some of the staff and figure out how we can get this moving forward, because it's flood mitigation, that's important to the community. We're building a Sycamores South Squaw Bridge, as we heard today. Height of it is extremely high because MOTI is going flood mitigation. In fact, if the water gets to that bridge height, it'll be swimming from the traffic circle. So we need to address this flood mitigation, and it needs to be done. Work we're doing, we'll have to have pumps in the basements to get the water out. So.
Counselor Anderson.
I think I read somewhere just lately that there was some funding for flood mitigation, if I recall. Do you?
There's two different streams. Yeah, one's provincial, one's federal.
Look into that.
It's gone dormant. There's been no action on it at all, so.
Counselor Bushel.
Yeah, through the chair, Daryl, like I know we did get a small grant for a test section. I'm not sure where we're at with that, but I thought Joe indicated we had some funding for a test section, a small.
Turned down, didn't we?
Small section, maybe Kelly would.
Applied. I don't know if it was approved. I doubt if it's approved.
Okay.
No,
I think it's approved. I think it's approved as well.
You mean the rail trail?
No, flood mitigation.
So, okay, well, there was
Just a small test section, and he indicated that because of the bridge being down at Finlayson, that they're gonna wait until they figure out what they're doing with the ramps and the bridge and everything down there. But I was having a discussion with a gentleman at Capel Street, and he owns the upstream side, and he wants to proceed with an application for a retaining wall. His is failing. And a similar application, which is coming to us tonight on further up the lake. But he would go ahead and put in his retaining wall and try to tie it in back to the roadway. And I know we had plans to do a bulb there. We had some DCC funds or something from Three Boys when they did their development. So maybe that's the north side of the boat ramp could be that section. So it's just something to think about. We could, instead of focusing it under the bridge for now, we could maybe focus on Capel, because Capel's, it's the start of the walkway too. So it's just something to think about.
Through the chair, I'd like to ask staff to confirm that I thought that we applied for 250,000 and in that ballpark, but we were turned down. But if staff could confirm that, that would be. You would know if you had 250,000. And he's know about all the other grants.
And I know we applied for the larger one on Finlayson related to some work there, but I will do some digging and report back.
Thank you.
all right. Any other comments on that? Any other comments on the strategic priorities? Councillor McKay, go ahead.
We're making some headway in doctor recruitment. News bulletin to come shortly. And we had a workshop last Friday with the Eagle Valley Senior Citizens Housing Society together collaboratively to move affordable housing forward.
All right, go ahead, Councillor Bushel.
And just a report today, we had a planning meeting earlier today with Scott and his team, and we had 3 or 4 development problems or developments that we were looking at. And yeah, and then last week we had another meeting with a big developer in town with Scott and his team, and that went really well. So yeah, things are moving forward in the development department. Scott, you're doing a good job. Thank you.
All right. So that's your report.
Well, Jeff was the chair.
All right, going on to the next thing on here is mayor and council's report. So let's start with our Councilor Aries. Do you have anything to report for the last couple of weeks?
Oh, sure, why not? I've talked to had a few residents approach me about boat noise in the last week, contentious issue that, an unenforceable issue that it currently is. Had a good tour of the bridge today, of the new Canby Salsa Bridge today, and really surprised for the complexity of that project, how well it's actually went. It's pretty complicated what they've done. They're running an old bridge in the same spot as a new bridge. Fascinating. In other news, the flowers around town are really looking exceptional. So any of us or residents who haven't, there's the Main Street landing and the cenotaph and around the senior center. A lot of work got put in there at the community cleanup, and it's just a great time to walk around Sycamores and enjoy it while we get to keep this space to ourselves on these sunny days.
Councillor Monas.
I just gave my report.
Councillor Evans, you got any more to add to it?
No,
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Evans, go ahead.
I've been to PACME at the high school, and the high school's planning on putting in a possible sports pavement hockey. I'm not saying that right. Street hockey / basketball court in their front yard. And that's coming. The students need more recreational space, especially in the summertime as well. And I'm going to a library board meeting next week.
Cool.
in person.
Councillor Bushel, any more to add?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Councillor Anderson?
I'm fine this week, thank you.
Really? Good. Okay, Councillor McCabe?
Stay tuned for doctor's notice shortly.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
All right, well, for me, it's all in the corporate report. There's a whole list of really interesting developments that we covered in 2020 and what we're doing in 2021. And I want to thank both Sarah and Jen in order to help write that. I gave them all the bullet points and they covered it quite nicely. There was quite a bit that could have been discussed, but after about 4 or 5 long paragraphs, I thought we had to end it. So anyway, it's all in there. So apart from that, lots of other stuff going on, but we'll carry on. That's my report. All right, so
Deb's got her hand.
recommendation at the committee of the whole now rise and report. I need a mover on this. Councillor Evans, Councillor Momus, all in favor. Moving into staff reports. Development variance permit application number 23.
We have a public input period first.
Oh, yeah, well, we have 15 minutes, public. Any comments? Can you see anything there, Jen, that anybody would like to raise their hand?
Deb did have her hand up. I don't know if she's taken.
If anyone's online, they can just raise their hand and not seeing any hands raised.
All right.
Sure.
All right, I think
Okay, if we're not going to
Carry
hear
on.
anybody, normally we hear from Deb, but I'm going to speak on her behalf today. She was at the planning committee meeting today and back in town, doing well, got volunteers lined up and working well as well. Thanks. Hope you're online, Deb. Talk to you soon. All right. Okay, so then we're going to move on to development variance permit number application number 20-317 DVP. And this is on 62 Montcalm Crescent. So Scott, can you give us a report on that? And then we can resolution as to digest this. Go ahead.
Chair, I just noticed in the chat, then Deb Heap said, good job, everyone.
Okay.
That was her.
Thanks, Deb.
So this is an application for a development variance permit. Staff's recommending that the permit be issued. It's to vary the construction of a retaining wall within 15 meters of the natural boundary of Mirror Lake. Property is located on Montcalm Crescent and fronts on Mirror Lake. And properties designated density residential, zoned R1 and R2. Here you have a orthophoto of the property, so you can see the existing retaining wall. It's like a gabion basket wall. And goal would be to replace it with a wall behind it. In the zoning bylaw has a setback from Mirror Lake, and it's 15 meters from Mirror Lake. So anything within 15 meters, you'd have to obviously vary the zoning bylaw. This one is a bit unique. Sometimes we would require a development permit for the riparian areas regulation. They're actually going through section 11 of the Water Sustainability Act. So that covers off the riparian areas regulation, and we require that development permit. Dave might be on the line participating in the Zoom, and he's for the owner. Here you have the variance as you're looking at it. This to vary section 311 on F of the special line setbacks from 15 meter to allow something within 15 meters. If you look at the drawing, the orange is the 15 meter setback. So a lot of the properties within that 15 meter setback. The blue line is the existing wall. And then the blue line is the proposed new wall. And then kind of the pink area in front of the blue area is where that gabion basket wall is. And so what they do is they'd, remove, and the wall is kind of leaning, the gabion basket wall is kind of leaning. So they'd replace it, and then they'd use the rocks that are in the gabion basket to put those down in front of the existing wall. We sent this out for referrals. Building inspector said a building permit would be required, and we had no response or no concerns from the other internal referral agencies. Notified the neighbors within 50 meters, and we didn't receive anything from the neighbors. It's a 3 meter high wall, 27.43 meters long, covering the entire frontage of the property. And staff's recommending that the permit be issued.
All right. Answer questions. Let's go ahead.
So we can go ahead and say yes, but that doesn't mean he can start construction. He still needs the section 11 approval, and that could not be allowed.
Through the chair, that's correct. So we made a condition of the permit that they receive that section 11. It's a long process, and we thought, let's get this variance out of the way before we find out from the province, just so when they do get that permit, then they can start construction. But you're right. We don't know when or if it will be issued.
Go ahead, Councilor Momas.
And you said the wall was 3 meters high?
Correct.
So he's going to have to put in anchors and tiebacks?
Through the chair, it's an engineered wall. Yeah.
All right. Good enough. Thank you.
Comments or any more comments? Any more questions? All right, I need a mover as the recommendation is presented. Councilor Bushel, Councilor Malmus, any other comments or questions on this? I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Scott. All right, development variance permit application number 21-122 DVP 1201 Shuswap Avenue. Scott, you got the floor again.
Thank you, Chair. So this is an application to vary the exterior side setback for a sign on Main Street from 5 meters to 1.74 meters on 1201 Shuswap Avenue is the address. It's the After Dark Distillery, and it's actually Main Street is where the sign fronts on. So as you can see, it's located in the old bowling alley. There's actually 2 properties. And so it's the property that is further from Shuswap. It's designated town center in the OCP, C1 town center residential is the zone. Here you can see the drawing, the location is at the back of the building. You can see the 2 silos at the back, and it'll be between the building and the sidewalk. Here's a drawing of the sign. It's going to be a pretty sharp looking sign. I think it's bottom of an old whiskey barrel, and then some copper wording with some graphics, raised graphics. It's going to be a nice looking sign. Here you have what the variance looks like, and it's the way Sarah drew it up, you can see the silos at the back of the building, and then she kind of laid the one drawing on top, so you can see how the sign's gonna fit in the space. But yeah, they'd vary it to 1.74 meters from the exterior sideline. Typically, a sign is allowed to extend 1 meter into the setback. So this one's extending a little further in the setback. Yeah, it should be a nice looking sign and should complement Main Street. The owner, people who live in town say they didn't even know there's distillery there, so he's hoping this will catch people's attention. Dean may be on the line. I think he said he was going to participate, but yeah, I think this one's pretty straightforward, and staff's recommending that the permit be issued. No response or no concerns from our the internal referrals. No response from any of the external mailouts. We notified property owners within 50 meters. Building permit will be required, and yeah, staff's recommending that the permit be issued.
All right, thank you. So comments from Council Aries, you had your hand up.
I was within the 50 meters to the mail out, so I think I'd be more comfortable if I declared a conflict and just stepped out for a sec.
Okay, thank you.
Gallery, it's public, right?
You should learn.
Well, I don't want to be, it's across the street. I don't want to be given any
Very admirable.
positive or negative look.
Thank you. Just be a sec. Comments or questions from council in regards to the resolution and just the recommendation? All right, I need a motion as per the recommendations presented. Councillor Malma, seconded by Councillor McCabe. Any other comments or questions on this? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Now you can. Can you
John?
let or John let Brian back in? Thanks, Ryan. All right, so development variance permit application number 21-130 DVP 1016 Hemlock Crescent. Scott, you have the floor again.
Thank you, Chair. So this is an application for a development variance permit, looking at two different things to vary on a property at 1016 Hemlock Crescent. Property is currently vacant, looking to build a house and a shop. They'd like to vary the height of the shop from 6 meters to 8 meters and the maximum lot coverage from 40% to 45.5%. Property is located on Hemlock Drive, designated medium density residential and zoned R1 and R2. Here you have a drawing showing the variance for the shop from 8 meters to 6 meters. I think 2 council meetings ago, council issued a development variance permit for many of the houses on the street to go from 6 meters to 7 meters. And, I think not too long right after that one was issued, we got an application for someone who wanted to go just a little bit higher. So the building is actually 7.82 meters. We rounded up to 8 meters. The dwelling as proposed is going to be 8.25 meters. The maximum height in the zone for a single family dwelling is 10 meters. So the building will be a large shop, but it shouldn't, it's not too far off the scale of the rest of the and then the second part is the parcel coverage. So 40% is what's permitted in the zoning bylaw, and this is 45.5%. So it's 459 square meters. So yeah, it's about 50 square meters higher than what would be permitted in the zoning bylaw. We referred out to everybody within 50 meters. We didn't hear anything back. And then also internally, no concerns from building inspection or bylaw enforcement, no response from the fire chief. We did refer it to Jeremy as well, the engineering technologist. He did notice that with, the increased parcel coverage, stormwater could be an issue with just more roof, more water that's not being soaked up by the ground. And then he also had, please note that the landscaping such as fence and vegetation should not be placed in proximity to service curb stops. As you increase the footprint, then your fences and other things end up encroaching on curb stops and things that are at the property line. The stormwater issue, we did ask for a plan, and that can be addressed at the building permit stage, just on how they're gonna contain the water on site and make sure it doesn't negatively affect the neighbors. I believe Brian Anderson is participating in the meeting on Zoom, if anybody has any questions for him. And again, this is a development variance permit, vary the height of the building of an accessory building from 6 to 8 meters. Increase the parcel coverage from 40 to 45.5%. Staff's recommending that it be approved.
Thank you. Comments or questions? Councillor Malmas, go ahead.
Yeah, like the first time we changed the rules, I was requested by, not sure, the landowner or just the area, the builder. And don't even get to the next meeting, and we gotta already do a variance. I thought that some of the functions of doing some of these things we were doing was to help reduce that amount, and also over the allowable, which is that allowable 40%? That's in the new, I looked at our new zoning bylaw, that's what's allowed in those new zoning bylaws, 40% coverage.
I don't know. I'd have to look myself.
No, well, I did, and that's what's allowed is 40. So, and yeah, that's land uses he's gonna cover. You gotta look at where you're going with the water. I'm also gonna assume that because Gordon and I went to the property. So there's stakes there where they're laying this out. So when you look at the picture, 1016, I mean, that property line, all them trees there, which they're all gone. This building is right against the back fence of another yard, like with our zoning at 1.5 meters. And most likely there'll be asphalt between the house and the shop. So in our laws that I looked at, what I could find, it didn't really cover on residential, it covered on, but you're only allowed so much total coverage of hard surface, which is considered roof, driveway, and asphalt. So I'm just going, with this property, by the looks of what he's trying to do, and then there could be a lean-to on the side of that garage because it's offset to the side of the house, which is going to be a straight run in. By the time you put that much asphalt pavement, the house, the roof on, the other place the water's got to go is the front lawn. I don't mind the 45, the over height. I'm opposed to I'd like to see how much area is left that's called permeable ground. Because other than that, he may have to put in a dry well or whatever, something to contain the water, because can't run it off into the neighbor's backyard. Those are my comments.
Gord, go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair, yeah, Jeff and I did go to the site and had a look, and it's, the height doesn't bother me at all. As you drive in the subdivision, there's a 2-story home there on a smaller lot. This lot is the largest lot in the whole development, and then the back end of the lot is a 2-story home. I guess if Brian's online, maybe, I know the building permit's gonna request a storm management, I guess, if you want to call it, plan, but if Brian wants to comment, I don't see any problem with it. I don't know if Brian wants to comment on this.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
So we require to put in a rock pit that acts as a dry well in almost every home that we build in Sycamores, because we don't have a stormwater system. So we contain the water in a large rock pit that's 1 meter below the bottom of the footing. And it's just a containment pit that all the roof water goes into that pit. On this particular property, we would probably have three, one in the front yard, one between the house and the shop, and then one at the back. Just for that reason. And I have discussed this with the building inspector. And that is how we plan to address the water issue. As for the height, it was just bad timing as far as that other variance that came in. It was a timing thing, and my client was just a little late to the party.
Thanks, Brian. Any other comments or questions from council at this time? Really? Okay, then I'm going to ask council to move the recommendation that's presented by staff. Councillor Bushel, I need a seconder. Councillor Anderson, any more questions on this? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Malmus is opposed, the rest is in, so the recommendation is carried. Thank you, Scott. All right, Old Town Bay Marina primary liquor license application. Ken, would you like to?
I don't have to leave the room, do I? I can just go back.
Technically, you should leave the room. Yes, I'm sorry.
Councillor Anderson is leaving based on conflict.
Yes, so thank you. Through the chair, in just a bit of history on this, in November, Mr. Kylo applied to the Liquor Control Regulation Branch to relocate his liquor primary license from 102 Martin Street to Old Town Road. At that time, a contact from the LCRB advised us that a letter confirming that there was no objection from the district was sufficient. Mr. Parliament submitted a letter saying that we had no objection to its location. However, as of last week, we've been advised that it's not sufficient and that we need a resolution from council. And so as such, this report has been prepared. And there's specifics. So at the time of the writing of the report, I hadn't received confirmation back from the LCRB that the resolution that I have drafted was, would that work, or did they need any amendments? They did get back to me today at 4. And so I've revised it a little bit. I'm not sure. I did try to update the agenda, so I don't know. There's just some words I've added, and I'll cover that in just a moment. But basically, in considering the location, staff see no objection and actually would go as far as say that we would fully support the location. We think that it's an ideal place for a food and liquor establishment. There are no neighboring properties within, I think the nearest is 900 meters away. So there's no concerns regarding noise. In fact, it would probably support tourism that's in that area. So the recommendation that I've presented on the agenda is there's just some adding of the words to the second whereas, where we need to also include that whereas council has considered the location of the liquor primary license at 200 Old Town Road and the impact of noise to the community in the immediate vicinity, the person capacity, and the hours of liquor service. We needed to add those words. And then further that because there's no neighboring properties within 800 meters, that we don't need to conduct any public input. Therefore, council perhaps would support this application. Council has 2 other options. You can choose to conduct public consultation, and that we could do that through newspaper advertisements, mail outs. Of course, there would be a cost to that at the district expense. Alternatively, you could also choose not to comment, and that would put the onus then back on the LCRB to conduct the public input at the applicant's expense. So those are your 3 options. Either support it with no public input, actually go and direct staff to conduct public input, or choose not to comment. Are there any questions?
All right, I'll comment on this. I'm going to support this 100%. It all makes sense based on the fact that I used to be in the liquor primary business myself. So I'm going to support this, but I think what I should do is I should read out this recommendation fully.
Can I just confirm that that's the right one, or perhaps I should read it out?
And you should read it out with the changes based on your conversation this afternoon.
Certainly.
Okay,
I will read
So
out.
that is
just
clear
to-
for council.
Just to confirm for the LCRB. Whereas the district of Sycamores received a copy of an application to relocate the liquor primary license held by Marina Bay Steakhouse and Bar and located at 102 Martin Street to 200 Old Town Road West under the proposed establishment name of Old Town Bay Marina Pub. And whereas council has considered the location of a primary license at 200 Old Town Road and the impact of noise to the community in the immediate vicinity, the person capacity, and the hours of liquor service. And whereas there are no residential properties in 800 meters of 200 Old Town Road West that would be impacted by the relocation, it is fair and equitable and appropriate for the local circumstances that no notice to gather the views of local residents is required. Now therefore be it resolved that the District of Sycamores recommend that the application to relocate the liquor primary license held by Marina Bay Steakhouse and Bar located at 102 Martin Street to 200 Old Town Road West under the proposed establishment name of Old Town Bay Marina be approved.
All right. I need a mover on this. Counselor McCabe, I need a seconder. Counselor Malmas, comments or questions on the resolution? Counselor Malmas.
That location was a good location and they had good food there. And they closed the business. And you know, if we're gonna have this flood of people coming into town, another restaurant, I don't think the restaurants are adverse to this, so I support another place to go eat in town.
All right, any other comments or questions? Okay, go ahead, Counselor.
The chair, I recall a motion last year on the same building, and I would just like to ask, is it the case that there's no parking requirements being considered for this because there's already a license to operate at that location?
As part of the report, parking was not included in the report, so council could direct staff to look back further and do a parking assessment.
I see. Through the chair, my concern is just because food can be very transient in nature. You kind of grab and go and hit the dock, but if you're consuming liquor, you're going to have more people retained on site, and the parking available in the immediate vicinity is not great. Just food for thought. I'm not really going any specific direction with this. Thank you.
All right, any comments? Okay, I'm going to call it. Go ahead, Councilor Malmas.
I'm not 100% certain, but there is a parking area across the street which they've allowed to be used for people that are going on houseboat trips. And I think because they do the shuttle from the other parking lot, that will be the parking for the pub across the street there, that gravel parking lot. It would make sense if you want people there that are not necessarily going on a houseboat, you would have. I don't see it in this application. Maybe the proponents on the phone we can ask.
Is a proponent on the phone? Okay, Councilor McCabe and then Councilor Bushel.
Yeah, so we're voting on a liquor license and not on parking, and it's not a building permit, it's a liquor license. In response to Councilor Malmas's statement, the development permit out there is phased. And in phase one of the development permit, that gravel portion is meant for the public use, day use of the public. The existing business model out there might deceive the public to the fact that that gravel area in the middle in phase one, which is right now, is for the day use of the public. And at no cost. There's signs up there that say they need a permit to park there. Maybe they're asking for a permit to help regulate how many cars or vehicles are in there, but in phase one of the development permit, that gravel area is intended uses for the public until such time as there's a business in that gravel area, like a kiosk or something, and then the use changes. So for now, Councilor Malmas is correct in saying that that could be used for parking for day use. That's what it is in the phase one of the development permit for
for the houseboat company.
Counselor Bushel.
I know we move our boat out there well, I've never had a problem parking out there ever. And there's always lots of parking. You know, now they're transporting all their houseboat customers to their manufacturing plant. So it's really opened things up.
Because that's overnight, yeah, but day parking's allowed.
Yeah, lots of day parking.
Yeah, just to remind council that the resolution is around the transferring of a liquor license, so I am sure that the parking components will. I see the combination of parking down the road from Old Town Bay and there's quite a bit of parking in that particular vicinity. I guess that remains to be seen how that'll sort itself out. That seems to be lots of parking out there. Go ahead, Councillor.
I'm interested to hear about the parking there, because the signage and access there really does not suggest it's public parking. I think maybe we should have something a little bit more firmed up about that before we place more demand on the limited amount of parking for the boat launch that's there.
I would just say to the chair, to be clear, this isn't approving of the liquor license. This is just an opportunity to comment. So we could elaborate that in the resolution. We could add to it if you'd like, comments on parking.
I'd be interested to, sorry, I'm not quite sure exactly what's appropriate at which stage here. So I don't want to talk about stuff that we can't do right now.
All right, so I'm going to call the question on this particular resolution, and then if we want to put together another resolution as we move forward, then we can do that when it comes to parking. But so any other comments or questions on this resolution? Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay, then maybe we can address the parking issue at a later date.
Absolutely, into the parking.
Okay.
I think it's worth looking into the phase development.
So, John, could you let? Okay, so partnering agreement, Glenn's water taxes. Can you comment on this as well? I think it's a.
Sure, through the chair, Glenn's Water Taxi approached council requesting use of the public wharf. The wharf regulation bylaw does have restrictions, however, and it was suggested by council that staff look into perhaps an agreement for Glen Water's Taxi to act as a district contractor. And so we've reviewed that, and that's what we thought staff thought was a great idea. And so in exchange for enforcement services in terms of surveillance, not necessarily issuance of tickets, but just surveilling and monitoring of our public works and towing services at the direction of the bylaw enforcement officer, it would be fair to offer the use of public work for this season. The agreement that's presented does have an option or a right to renew for next year as well, if it's required. We actually think at the staff level, it would be very beneficial to have this service. So if council it likes the agreement that's presented in front of them, or you'd like to amend it, we could proceed with entering into this agreement with Glenn's Water Taxi.
All right, so I'm going to read the recommendation that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to enter into a partnering agreement with Glenn's Water Taxi for the provision of bylaw enforcement and towing services at all public wharves in exchange for use of a boat slip and parking space at Main Street Landing commencing June 1st, 2021 and terminating on September 30th, 2021 with an option to renew an additional 6 months in 2022. All right, I need a mover on this. Councillor McCabe, Councillor Anderson, comments? All right, going to call a question. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. All right, 2021 wastewater treatment upgrading works, miscellaneous works and emergency program RFP. Recommendation that council direct staff to award the 2021 wastewater treatment upgrading works, miscellaneous works and emergency works program to General Assembly excavating limit for the bid price of $854,158, and that council amend the 2021-2025 financial plan to increase the wastewater treatment plant upgrade project by $350,000 to be funded by the way of sewer reserves. I need a mover on this. Councillor Malmus, seconded by Councillor Aries. Daryl, can you give us a report on this, please? Just an up.
Yeah, just from a high level, we took the RFP for this installation of the disc filter out of the hands of Stantec, who's been the overall project engineer. This goes way back, probably 3 years ago. We got 2.2 million to upgrade our wastewater facility, and we've done a ton of work. We've put some aeration in. We've cleaned lagoons. We've put a baffle in place to slow down the speed of the flow. The headworks building was built to screen everything. This last piece, the tertiary filters, go at the very far end, and that's exactly what they are. There's the filter system really to knock our phosphorus levels down and to allow us to get in front of MOE and increase our permit. So it's a key piece that we need. We're still not meeting the numbers we need to, and we feel that this filter is the answer. We tied this RFP into an emergency service work so that if we come across utility jobs where we need to scramble and get a contractor with some expertise, we can lean on the proponent, General Assembly, who's supplied all kinds of information to us in terms of their skill set and their rates and their equipment and their references. So we tied them together. We only had one applicant. It does take the overall project over the allotted amount that we had hoped to spend. It takes us to about 350,000 over on a $2.2 million project. That said, the RFP that we constructed, a lot of it is the civil work and the concrete that's costing a lot. We've put allowances in for the electrical and the mechanical, the building mechanical and the process mechanical, and we put really healthy amounts of money into those allowances. So I think there's a pretty good chance we're going to save a lot of that money once we go out to get that work done. So the overage won't be, I'm hopeful the overage won't be as big as it shows. We do have money in the reserves to support it. So that would also be tied into this resolution. If we could move forward and get General Assembly going, we're ready to get delivery of our filters on June 11th. So we'd like to get that work started.
All right, comments? Councillor Malmus and Councillor McCabe.
Through the chair, yeah, Daryl and Jeremy have been working on this, and they were all surprised when it closed yesterday. They phoned me and said, "Could you come to the office as the chair of the wastewater treatment?" So I came in there, we looked at it, we confirmed with Kelly that we have more than sufficient funds to do the overage. The wastewater fund is healthy. This project has been a pain in the district's butt for 3 years. Years ago, we started on this. We were supposed to be done. We were supposed to have, less odor. This is the last piece of the puzzle. The district of Sycamores has no capacity to grow. We can't bring more people into town. We need to get our permit up from 1,130 cubic meters a day. Is that what it is?
1135, yeah.
1135 to our goal when we started this was to get to 2,000 cubic meters a day. And then that'll give us some room to grow. But right now, the way our permit is, the way our discharge is, we can't take any more people really. Another 30 or 40 people, and people are wanting to build a house in town here. So this is an absolute, we finish this. This will finish that part, and then when we're done that, we will get the opportunity to look at how it operates, and then go back and tweak up a few. There are a few things that need to be tweaked, but we can. Part of our grant funding was specifically for this tertiary filter. That was one of the key things. Application. So we have to do it regardless of, and there's money. So it's not gonna, affect the tax base. You didn't have to change your tax rate, so it's all good.
Thanks, Councilor Moss. Councilor McCabe, your comment.
Well, that was just my question. I was going to go through the chair and ask Kelly if we're okay with that, but I think Councilor Mullins answered that.
Yep, and I can just further to Councilor Mollis's comments, we have about at the beginning of 2021, just over $1.2 million in our sewer reserve. Did do a one-time transfer of $750 to the water, and we're still left with 1.2 million. So, and given our 5-year capital plan, knowing there could be some little sewer surprises in the future, I left some bonus sewer reserves there. So I feel very good. It doesn't harm us anyway financially.
All right, any other comments or questions on this? Okay, I'll call a question. All in favor? Unanimously, thank you. All right, moving on to the 2021 tax rate bylaw. Recommendation that the district Sycamores tax rate bylaw number 1001, 2021 be adopted as presented this 12th day of May 2021. I need a mover on this. Councilor Evans, Councilor Malmus. Any comments or questions on this? All right. Call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, Kelly. All right, good neighbor, recommendation that the good neighbor bylaw number 1005, 2021 be read a first, second, and third time as presented this 12th day of May 2021. I need a mover on this. Councilor Malmus, Councilor Aries. Jen, can you give us a report on this as to where we're going with this?
Certainly, through the chair. So the bylaw that's presented in front of council today has some improved language and clearer definitions for what constitutes an unsightly premise. Further, the language that's in there is to define and restrict nuisances and should improve enforcement efforts with clearer guidelines and fairness as this is applied equally amongst the community. Also, there's been some language additions that will capture properties that may attract vermin and rats because that was a significant issue for the district last year. And we're projecting that perhaps it'll be an issue again this year. In terms of the clauses regarding noise, we have broadened the scope to capture what would deemed as unreasonable. We've also eliminated quiet hours because, a fair amount of people in Sycamores do work shift work and perhaps don't follow that Monday to Friday 9 to 5, and relying back on that unreasonable, what is unreasonable noise in the community, and that's what we would enforce upon. There's also been language regarding property maintenance, and it goes beyond just aesthetics. There's also some safety concerns in there, and so we'll be able to enforce upon property maintenance standards. There's also the ability for the declaration of a nuisance property. So for those properties where we're having repeat service calls and we're not seeing compliance within those first initial contact attempts, we'll give council the ability by resolution to declare a property as a nuisance property. And then we can charge additional fees by attending those properties when they're just not listening and following the direction of the bylaw enforcement officer. And then finally, the final page of the bylaw has fines, and as directed by council at the last meeting, it does follow a tiered and escalating fine structure. So there's first offenses, second offenses, and then third and subsequent offenses within 180 days. As we heard from John earlier, that fines can actually be quite effective. So, hopefully we're not reaching third and subsequent offenses, and that we can seek compliance just really through education. We always promote education, voluntary compliance as our philosophy in enforcement. Sometimes we do need something a little stronger. So council has options today. You can give it for second and third reading if you like it as it is. You could give it any amendments. I would defeat the motion on the table and just give it first and second reading, and please direct staff what you would like to see differently about it. Or you can also tell me to stand down and we'll discontinue the preparation of a good neighbor bylaw.
All right, comments or questions from council? Councilor McCabe and Councilor Bushel.
I'm just curious about the grandfather clause. So if we have an existing file and then we have new bylaws in place, or would that capture an existing file with the new wording?
Through the chair. So we wouldn't be able to escalate to a second offense for an existing file, but when the date of this is adopted, we'd perhaps go issue, let's say we had to issue a fine, then that would be the first one. We could actually go every day under the MTI guidelines, as you can go every 24 hours. So we could do a second fine on the second day if we had a property that we really wanted to enforce upon. But no, anything that we've been previously dealing in the past, say 6 months, we wouldn't necessarily get to just escalate to a third and subsequent offense. The date that this bylaw is adopted, it comes into effect.
Thank you.
Counselor Bushel?
Yes, through the chair again, I like it. I think you hit all the points. I wouldn't mind spending another couple of weeks looking at it.
Oh.
I did review it all. There's a couple sections that I just wanted to check up on.
Sure.
I like it. Yeah.
Counselor Anderson?
Jen, is there somewhere in here, or would this be separate by law? When a couple weeks ago, we discussed taxing properties that were unsightly and weren't had major equipment on them, and they were just getting.
Sure. Through the chair, I think what you might be referring to is remedial action order. And that is a provision under the community charter. It's not a bylaw. So we have the authority, if there's a declared nuisance, to, we have to pass it by resolution by council. We have to give them so many days to comply, and then we can actually go do the work and then apply that to their property taxes. So that is another tool of enforcement that's we're just given that authority under the community charter, and doesn't, regardless of what bylaw we have in place. Is that what you're speaking of?
Yeah, and there's a couple of things. I think there was one on empty property as well, property that's sitting there that were
Vacant land, yes.
vacant land.
We would have to look more into that. Was it Lillooet that passed a resolution?
I think it was DOL, yeah.
We're looking at that. I don't believe we have the authority right now under the community charter to do that. So I think they're asking UBCM to lobby for that. Kelly's nodding really emphatically.
Okay.
Well, I've gone through it a couple of times, and I think that you've done an amazing job. I think that we wanted to strengthen it up, and then you've taken an unsightly premises bylaw and then turned that around by producing this good neighbor bylaw, and it has a lot more components. It also gives our bylaw officer a little bit more capacity when it comes to handling some of these claims and so forth. But if council wishes to take a little more time to digest this, I can table this for now, and we can bring it back to council a little bit later. It's up to council, or I can call the question on it right now. Councillor Momus, go ahead.
Through the chair, no, I went through this 3 or 4 times. I'm not 100% certain what Councillor Bushel wants to review on it. If we wait 2 weeks and we come back, we're going to get into the busier season, the rest of it. I think that Jen and staff has done a good job of this. I think that the biggest thing was to get the fines where they actually hurt somebody to have to pay them. $100 per a lot of people is, that's 3 hours or 4 hours of time to clean up. But $500 is a little more than that. So I'm fine with first, second, and third reading. I don't see anything in here that I personally would amend, unless Councillor Bushel has something that he's specifically referring to.
I would just say procedurally, if perhaps in the next 2 weeks, if something came to council's attention that you'd like the bylaw to be amended, we could always rescind third reading, make those amendments, and then proceed from there as well. So that would be an option.
None of mine were major. Like I just thought nuisance property, repeat calls, $50 doesn't seem like anything. And I thought maybe it should be 100 or 150, I mean, especially, we got a guy at the bottom of the hill on Man Road there, and I mean, he's playing his music all day, all night long. And I'm sure we've been back and forth there a few times, or the RCMP have, and he just doesn't get it. And so, if you could throw that on his taxes every year, it might add up. But I don't know, I thought $50 for John going out all the time is pretty minuscule for repeat calls.
And that would be in addition to other enforcement. So the noise bylaw, or the noise, I think it's got set at $250. If I'm looking at the right one. Oh, no, sorry, it's $100, but then it escalates to $250 and then $500 for third, and that can be done daily.
I mean, I don't want to hold it up either. I mean, we can always adjust it after a year. So I'm
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I see this. I mean, this is to be work in progress. We can always change this as we go forward and make some amendments as we go along, but from what staff has done now, I mean, I think it's a great tool, better, way better than what we had in the past, and I think Jen's done a really good job on this. I'm very comfortable with it. I see it's gives us a lot more clout.
Yeah, and the other one I had there was just the construction one on 10 o'clock on Sundays.
Yeah.
You know, and it's pretty late in the morning. Can't do any work out in your yard till 10 o'clock. But you know, is that normal, 10? I know a lot of communities have that bylaw, but I can't remember what time it was.
Typically on a Sunday, it's
10, okay. Oh, I'm okay with that. I'll stay in bed.
To be in church.
I'll be in church.
All right, with that being said, I'm gonna call the question on the resolution. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Good work, Jen. All right, zoning amendment application number 21-061 RZ 1129 Riverside Avenue. Recommendation that the District of Sycamore zoning amendment bylaw number 104/2021 be given first and second reading as presented this 12th day of May 2021, and that the public hearing to hear representations on District of bylaw number 104/2021 be scheduled. I need a mover on this. Councillor Malmas, seconded by Councillor Evans. Thank you. Scott, can you give us the rundown on this as well?
I can, thank you, Chair. So this is an application to rezone a property from C4 to C4A. And I believe Marco is the agent and he's on the line, so he's also available for our questions. Staff's recommending that the bylaws be given first and second reading and that public hearing be scheduled as well. The property is located on Riverside Avenue, just off Main Street. It's one property away from Main Street. We have the airport of the property right now. It sits vacant. There is an agreement between the Strata property across the road and this property where they're allowed to park on the property. So there's parking provided. The middle of the property is an access, and then the back corner of the property is a covenant area where they have to provide parking for the property across the road. The property is tourist commercial in the OCP, I believe, or town center, sorry. And then it's C4, it's zone C4 at this time, waterfront commercial, and then the C4A is waterfront commercial residential. And that allows for a multifamily residential component. It's very similar to the C4 zone, but allows that multifamily residential component. Here's a elevation drawing or a concept drawing of what the building could look like. Commercial unit in the front corner, and then residential units above with storage below. The owner has a couple ideas. This zone is pretty flexible for what they'd like to do. One option would be, people could live in these full-time. Another option could be you could use it like a motel or hotel. And then another option, you could stratify it, and each one could be temporary accommodation through an Airbnb or something. And then, the use at the bottom, the intention could be to have the units at the bottom be, connected to the unit on the top where they, it's their personal storage, but it also, the zone is flexible enough. It could be commercial storage as well. Here's a site plan. So again, you can see that access through the middle, and then the easement area on the, I think that'd be the south corner, and that area is, the easement area is for parking for the strata across the road. There has been some discussions about that strata not requiring that area and having that removed. But I believe the Strata Corporation right now is willing to give up the right to park on this property. And then you can see they also have identified an area for future commercial on the northeast corner. There's future commercial, which could be storage. You can see the parking that they have proposed, and they have some RV parking identified. So it's a 7-unit multifamily building, possibly 3 commercial units, and then that other 1 commercial unit at the front of the property. sent this out for consultation. So we referred it out. We're still waiting to hear back. Actually, we did hear back today from the Adams Lake Indian Band. They would like some further consultation. So there's the development permit will be required. So that's when we get to look at the form and character and some of the other details on the property, the landscaping and parking. So Adams Lake Indian Band said in principle, they're okay with rezoning, but they'd like an opportunity to comment later on in the process as well. No response from PC Hydro, interior health interests are not affected. Mascon Cable, no objection. Ministry of Transportation said they'd get preliminary approval for 1 year. So because it's within 800 meters of the Trans-Canada, they'd have to approve this bylaw amendment. No objection from TELUS. I don't believe we've heard back from Splatson. Building inspector said he has no issues. He's support. The engineer and technologist, he had no objection how offsite improvements would be required. The fire flow is deficient right now. The main isn't adequately sized, so they'd have to sprinkle the building, which the applicant's aware of that. And then they'd have to provide those offsite improvements at the time of when they apply for the building permit. It's a commercial building. They'd have to address those offsite improvements. And then they'd require a permit for the driveway. Fire chief had said their interests were unaffected. And I think the bylaw enforcement didn't show up in the consultation. I think they did have questions around parking as well. So that's something came up earlier today is parking, and down here parking could be tight. They should be able to provide the parking they require on site, but as people are coming and going and things like that, then it could create a bit of a parking issue. But staff's recommending give first and second reading. It's consistent with the official community plan. We'll get another chance to see this at the development permit stage. And it's consistent with the neighborhood and should be an improvement down there.
Thanks. Councillor Malmus, go ahead.
Through the chair, so I have quite a few comments based on. So the first one is the property line at the front. When you look at it, 1129, it looks like there's the fence is inside of the property line. Is this an actual property line, or did we just scribble this on there because the lot next to the south is further out to the street? The property line for Oldie Manufacturing is a little bit further out. So one of the things that I thought we were doing was lining up these property lines for the road moving forward for Riverside. So that should be looked at. Second thing is that the parking for Portside, they need to be forced into using it because in the summertime, the people rent out those units and they're parking their truck and boat and sleds and everything on the street. They're blocking it off or at Moose's. And some of them are even parking in front of where this fence is on this property they wish to develop. I'm glad to hear that they're going to put commercial on the lower level at the front. Might ask that the proponent consider that front commercial area be angled, because on that street in the OCP, the setback is 0. So they could use up that space and get to the street. So yeah, that's and when you look at a different map, the property line at the back actually follows the property line from 222 Temple. So this is an accurate property line, because when I went over there today, I'm trying to figure out exactly where the corner was, because the property pins are in there for the Fred Bush Lane. Would there be any consideration to actually having that access that property? Be my last question. I think it's a great building, a great facility. It's just to meet our OCP. It should have the 0 setback in the commercial on the front, which they're saying is going to be commercial on the lower, but it's squared off. And then the other thing is the district is, because we did this down the street at, what is it, 7-Eleven Riverside? The Jensen property had to have his front adjusted for whatever the road width was supposed to be. So are we going to consider that here before we actually do the permit?
Scott, do you want to comment?
Yeah, I can respond to that. Thank you, Chair. So I believe the property line is accurate on the drawing that's on the screen. You're right, the front parcel lines don't line up quite. They're not a contiguous single line. That happens as properties get subdivided and, you know, road dedication is taken in different places. You always try and get what the bylaw requires, but yeah, it doesn't always line up. So if properties aren't subdivided at the same time. So, but I believe this one is accurate. It does square up at the back. I think the zone actually is a little off, and that's why it looks like sometimes it's the property on Temple but I think that property actually does square up at the back. As far as forcing the people to use the parking, I probably just some awareness that there is parking at the back of this property. I'd say most people who own units in that strata or even rent them out probably don't let people know that there is parking available. You have one other question about setbacks?
Yeah, when you look at the drawing, and the other thing is in the application that the package is basically redacted. There's a lot of information in here, but the building is an exceptional building. It looks great. It's going to meet everything in the OCP. I just was curious if it was at all possible, if that's a commercial space on the lower, if they could line it up with the front property. They got kind of a garage door going in there, which I'm not certain about that. I mean, this is a conceptual drawing. So, but they have acknowledged that that lower level is going to be commercial, which meets everything in the OCP. So I'm glad to see that somebody actually read our OCP. So, that's it. It's just, they're just comments. Like I know it's hard to do a zero setback on a lot that's got a 20-degree angle on it.
So Councillor Momus, what are you, Scott, where are we going with this at this stage? Because we have this resolution here on the table. Do you want them to go back to the?
No, the proponent is on the line. We've done this once before where you can just ask if there's anything that I've said that's not. You look at the building, how far back it is from his property line. The start of it. And I know that our staff is all about the green space, some trees and brush and that. The OCP clearly states that Riverside is a zero setback road with commercial on the front. So would the proponent consider that? That's all I'm saying. I don't want to stop this. I just going, would he consider that?
Hi, good afternoon, good evening. This is Marco Pribilovic, and I am representing the owner of this property. Having been very well aligned with the owner, that is something we would be willing to entertain, to align the front of the lower unit to be in line with the Riverside. Our design was, we were trying to complete our design to to maximize the footprint, and something like that I think the owner would welcome. So
okay. Super, thank you.
Okay. All right, any other comments or questions on this resolution? Right, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, Scott. All right, zoning application amendment application number 21-062 RZ 610 Maple Street. Recommendation that the District of Sycamores zoning amendment bylaw number 1006/2021 be given first and second reading as presented this 12th day of May 2021, and that the public hearing be hearing to hear representations on District of Sycamores zoning amendment bylaw number 1006/2021 be scheduled. Scott, can you give us a report on this, and then we'll get somebody to move this in a second. Go ahead.
And thank you, Chair. So this is a rezoning application. This one is first and second reading to a bylaw that would rezone a property from R1 and R2 to R1C, which is the single family residential with detached secondary dwelling. This would be the third property that has taken advantage of this opportunity, this new zone that allows for that detached dwelling on a residential property. Staff's recommending be given first and second reading, and that also that a public hearing be scheduled. Properties located on Maple Street, 610 Maple Street. Yeah, it looks similar to 610 Cedar. We have a air photo of the property. You can see the building at the back. That's a building that's proposed to be used as the detached dwelling. They'd have to go through a building permit, and we'd have to look at the setbacks, size of the building. Obviously, the building would have to meet BC building code, but that's the intention, is to use the existing building. Right now, it's low density residential in the OCP, and then it's zoned R1 and R2, and the R1C would be consistent with that OCP designation as well. Here are some photos of the property. So there's an existing wood shop. I guess they used to make doors back here. Someone had purchased it, Marie Eve, and I believe Marie Eve is on the phone as well. So she may have some further comments. But yeah, you can see you pass through the carport, and there's that the building at the back. I understand the owner would actually like to live in the back building and the smaller building, and then rent out the house to a family. We sent this out for referrals, no concerns from the engineering technician. Building inspector did have comments that, yeah, they'd have to upgrade the building to meet code requirements. No issues from the fire chief, no concerns from bylaw enforcement. MOT did say they'd give preliminary approval for 1 year, no response from BC Hydro or the other utilities. Yeah, again, this one is pretty straightforward, consistent with the neighborhood. There won't be a new building. Well, if they're able to use that existing building, it shouldn't impact the neighborhood in any great way. But yeah, it's something that's needed, provides another alternative to housing in Sycamores, and staff's recommending that allows to be given first and second reading.
All right, comments or questions from Council Monas?
I just have a question. If you can just go back one screen, please. Right there. No, the one where it lists comments. That one. That's the third or fourth time that I've seen BC Hydro no response yet. And then MOTI goes preliminary approval granted for 1 year. Does that mean after you build it, they got the right to tell you got to tear it down after a year? Like approval granted, like this is a temporary use permit, basically.
Well, sorry, through the chair. So the MOTI has to approve the bylaw because it's within 800 meters to Trans-Canada. So they've responded that when the bylaw is before them for after third reading, they'll approve it, but they only extend that for 1 year. So they don't want to have a whole bunch of them floating out there. Okay. So it's the bylaw that they'll approve for 1 year, not the building that they'll approve for 1 year.
Okay. Good, that's clear.
Interesting. Any other comments or questions? Okay, I need a mover on the resolution. Councillor Aries, Councillor Evans, any other comments? Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Scott. All right, correspondence for action, outdoor recreation, Council of British Columbia. So the UBCM resolution from Revelstoke Provincial Trail Strategy request for endorsement. Recommendation that council endorse the city of Revelstoke's resolution regarding support of an updated trail strategy for BC and adequate resources to implement it. I need a mover. Councillor Bushel, second by Councillor Mullins. Councillor Bushel, do you want to comment on this?
Yeah, no, I support this trail strategy. I mean, it needs to be updated every few years, and it hasn't been updated for a while. And it's for motorized and non-motorized, and I support it for sure. And I think we should support Revelstoke on it.
Yeah, so comments when it comes to the CSRD, when we had our strategic priority session, this trail strategy project was one of the top priorities for the CSRD. It has never been carried out. And so, yeah, I support this as well. I think that this is long overdue. So a letter of support from council. So there's a recommendation that council endorse the city of Revelstoke's resolution regarding support of an updated trail strategy for BC and adequate resources to implement it. Okay, and we have a mover and a seconder on. I now call the question. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. All right, correspondence for action. Shuswap Children's Association recommendation that a letter be composed in appreciation of all the child care centers in Sycamores as an acknowledgement of May being Child Care Month. Mover on this, Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Evans. Comments on this proposal? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. So correspondence for information, there's a whole list here. So does any one of the councillors want to speak on behalf of any one of these particular letters and correspondence? Councillor Malmus.
I want the C1 Westbourne Loopman's resolution CSRD regarding landfill non-compliance. When you read through this and look at the pictures, that's why a landfill should be an incinerator like we talked about doing, to generate power or something. We shouldn't be filling up the ground with this stuff. It's not being contained. You look at the pictures of the ocean where they went out and they gathered up all the plastic there, and they basically got an island with bags of plastic, and they have no process to deal with. Doesn't seem to be our mandate to. We live in a beautiful area, and to have it look like that. Whenever I go up to side by side or whatever I take in comes back with me, I don't leave any of it behind. So I agree entirely with this letter that they should be forced to deal with this. They've been told, they've been warned. And it's not only the golden one, it's all the landfills that the CSRD operates. So there's a way that we could support this letter. I'd like to see us support it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so when I read this, based on waste management, I phoned Wayne Christian on it, and I had a conversation with him because of the possibility of a bioenergy project that's similar to the Surrey bioenergy project when it deals with household waste and so forth. And in the conversation, and he says, well, what we really require is we need to have a complete new waste management strategy. And I think that that's what we're going after, because let's face it, Golden, Revelstoke, Sycamores, especially, our landfills are right next to in water management areas, next to the lake here, next to the river in Golden, and next to the river in Revelstoke. And also the aquifer in Armstrong is a main concern when it comes to waste management. So how do we get this past the regional districts? Because they get a little bit concerned when you start talking about closing down landfills and maybe finding alternatives. But maybe, you know, with the new construction of the biomass facility in Surrey, might be an indication of it's now time that we start looking at a different waste management system. Oh, I don't know what we can recommend to staff when it comes to, you know, how do we start this process? Because where do we go when we're going to be looking at waste management in 20 years from now for our children? I don't think that landfills are an option anymore. So I agree with Councillor Malmus, but what's next steps? Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, I agree with Jeff too. I mean, this is blatant, you know, not taking care of the environment. I know our landfill is managed different. I mean, it has electric fence, you know, they have no bears in the dump. You never get any bears in the dump because the electric fence is really strong. They cover their garbage every night. They have these big covers that they put on the garbage every night, and they contain it all day long and keep it in a small area. And then they cover it so that you don't get the birds flying in and grabbing the stuff and then dropping it in the bush, like you see in the pictures. So I don't know why there's Golden's run like it is, but yeah, that's terrible. That's terrible. I don't blame the lady for writing an article like that. I support that for sure.
Any other comments and any other of the correspondence? I just want to talk about John Stewart and his letter in regards to the slogan of people not plates and wealth over health being shoved down the throats of people. I have to say that this is a bit of a disconnect when I take a look at this letter, because what was the slogan for people not plates? Well, basically it was for the safety of the people that have different colored license plates, and there has been situations where there's been lug nuts being removed or been lightened up on people's cars / tires and whatnot. And so when we started this slogan, it was in regards to safety, and it was in regards to Dr. Bonnie Henry saying, you know, be safe, be kind and whatnot. And for people that came to Sycamores to respect the people that were in Sycamores, and for people that live in Sycamores to respect the people that come to Sycamores as well. But that's the disconnect in this particular letter. I got to say that it's not wealth over health. It was safety, our biggest single concern of somebody doing something stupid that could maybe be concerning when it comes to maybe one of our families going down the road when a lug nut comes off of a car with license plates and killing one of our family members. And that's what this was all about. So I just want to make that clear as to what that particular letter in response to it, so that you do connect, you know, what the real reason was for that particular campaign. Any other comments, Councilor Malmus?
Yeah, I'm surprised that Councilor Anderson didn't want to acknowledge this, but Splats and Band acknowledging the increased funding for aquatic invasive species enforcement. So that's a
yeah, I did notice all of the support letters that we're getting. So it is a really good job, but I guess the next step is we've got all these support letters. When does it go into effect? How quickly can we get this put into law, I guess, because it would be fines. So it's great that everyone's supporting and sending forward and we're getting the message out there, but we still need to push forward with it.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of support on that all through the province, and rightfully so. Big concern in every one of our areas. Any other comments in the correspondence? Go ahead, Councilor.
So we got a response back from Minister of Transportation, Rob Fleming. a generic response, but they did research it enough to know that we have a bus running from Revelstoke to Cologne and Revelstoke to Kamloops. But they did mention 250 million in funding for new funding in March this year for transit needs of Canadians living in rural, remote, and small communities. So I was wondering if we could have staff to maybe have a look at what kind of funding that is without spending a lot of time on it, just to see if I'd be able to tap into that. It's federal funding, so 250 million across Canada is not a lot of money when you spread it out. I'm just curious if there's maybe something there we can tap into.
Councilor Holmes?
Maybe we could tap into the 3 buses. School districts getting the new 3 electric buses at $350,000 a bus. Just going, are we kidding ourselves here?
Councilor Evans?
On a different correspondence, thank you. I just want to mention that I think it's admirable that Stanley Tweddle has issued a thank you card to us, which is rare. Almost all people who send thank you cards these days. I think that's admirable.
Yeah, I got that down here too, the thank you card for the scholarships, and the district of Sycamores is more than happy to give those scholarships out. And on the 27th, I got the opportunity to say a few words to the grad class. All right, any other comments? I guess maybe the last one for me was this letter regarding a moratorium on wolves. And, you know, based on science, and it comes to, I have to comment on this based on my background and the years I spent in the backcountry. So, yeah, so this is based on science, and wolves are predators, and we've got backcountry closure coming down because of what's happening. And I do really appreciate maybe this letter, but I do think that you have to depend on scientific evidence and not scientific facts, and balance when it comes to nature. And so the money that's spent on culling wolves is a concern for, you know, the CEOs and or those that want to see balance in the backcountry. So interesting letter. All right, that's it for me when it comes to these letters. Any other thing? Councilor Moms, go ahead.
Well, just to do with this, the other day was about 6:45. I was leaving Tim Hortons to head to the house, and there's a coyote across the highway. So I followed him, and he's in a dead run. He knows exactly where he's going. He's going to Jake's chicken. Not a dead run. He looked healthy, not starving. I phoned Jake. I said, "You're still at Tim's. You better get home and your chickens." He said, "They're not my chickens. They're Dad's chickens."
All right. What else is on this agenda? So, yeah, so we are going to go back in camera for one more conversation. So recommendation that pursuant to section 91A, G, and K, the rail trail components. Okay, good. The Community Charter Council exercises authority and move in camera, moved by Councilor Molnar, seconded by Councilor in camera.